Support for this podcast comes from St. Alphonsus Sports Medicine, offering services for sports injury and recovery, with physicians and athletic trainers who provide treatment for fractures, dislocations, sprains, strains, and other sports-related issues. More information on services at stalphonsus.org.
The Boise State Public Radio app. News, music, and more.
Idaho Matters.
Morning Edition.
All Things Considered.
The Connector.
And more.
And more.
You can take us wherever you go and stay connected. Without it, you're missing out. Download it free.
You can also communicate using the Talk to Us tab.
The Boise State Public Radio app.
It's the Connector, Idaho Daily News. Good morning. It is Thursday, April 23rd. I'm Troy Oppie. Here are today's headlines. The city of Boise is cautiously moving forward with expanding availability of pickleball courts in the city. Water conservation incentives and usage surcharges could be coming to the city of Hailey. And Idaho's connection to the first round of tonight's NFL draft. Those stories in just a moment. First, state officials want to hit the ground running as Idaho begins to prop up its rural health transformation initiative over the coming months. Here's James Dawson with more.
A legislative oversight committee held its first meeting Wednesday with a tight timeline ahead. The first installment of the 5-year federal grant totals $186 million, and it must be earmarked by October 30th. Idaho Department of Health and Welfare Director Juliet Sharon says she's working to hire 12 temporary staff for the program's lifespan who will help organize contracting and track compliance.
We have a pretty lean approach. I've seen some pretty large teams, even from some of our neighboring states to the east, that have even smaller populations than we do.
Sharon says the state will focus on increasing access to telehealth services, as well as using AI for diagnostic support, billing, and helping stop cybersecurity threats. Idaho also wants to make services more available in rural areas for maternal health, behavioral health, dental, and diagnostics. State lawmakers said little during the committee's first meeting. They'll soon get a look at proposed awards and contracts in the coming weeks. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
The statewide primary election is less than a month away. Ada County Elections wants voters to double-check their polling location before they head to the polls May 19th. The county, in a statement, says some locations have recently changed due to availability, consolidation, cost savings, or other reasons. Verify your polling location at adaCountyElections.gov. Click View My Ballot. Voters will also be notified of polling location changes by mail in the coming days. Early voting begins May 4th in Ada County. Remember that Idaho's primary requires a party affiliation. Voters will only receive a ballot with candidates from their affiliated party. State law also blocks currently affiliated voters from switching party registration at the polls. But if you are currently unaffiliated, you can register with a party at your polling location. Absentee ballot requests may be made until May 8th. The city of Hailey is preparing to address the predicted water shortage this summer with a program of conservation incentives and usage surcharges. The Mountain Express reports the city council heard a plan from Public Works Director Brian Yeager that includes an option of temporary irrigation reductions, permanent water reduction, or water efficiency audits. Users who meet temporary reduction goals could get bill credits starting in the fall, larger credits for greater conservation. Users could also choose to implement a project to reduce their consumption by 20% ongoing, but the city could claw back any rebates it gives after 5 years if usage reductions weren't maintained. A professional audit on how to reduce water consumption is also an option. The city would rebate up to $150 for the audit cost. Even as Hailey looks for ways to shrink its water use in the face of drought, residents could see surcharges on their water and wastewater bills because much of the cost for these services remains the same, even if usage is reduced. The City Council is expected to vote on these plans this coming Monday. The Mountain Express reports the main decision is the size of the surcharge, about $10 or about $15 a month for customers using the average of 29,000 gallons of water or more each month. The city of Boise settled a lawsuit last year over noise and activity at pickleball courts at Willow Lane Park, brought by neighbors. The courts were pulled out. Demand, though, for pickleball is only growing, and as part of a 5-year pickleball court management plan, the city opened a survey asking residents how they wanted the availability of those courts to grow. About 1,900 people responded. 78% say they play pickleball. The same percentage supported new pickleball courts in Boise. 2/3 would be okay with converting existing tennis courts to meet the need. 16% of available courts in Boise are pickleball now. The long-term goal is 25%. Parks and Rec Director Sarah Arkle told the city's Parks Board Boise will need to meet growing demand while ensuring situations like Willow Lane aren't repeated.
This is going to be one of those issues we'll have to communicate frequently about every year, just like we do with muddy trails, because this sport is growing so fast. There's new users every year.
Boise right now is planning new pickleball courts at Alta Harris Park, and there are 3 other potential sites, Owyhee and Molinar Parks and the Optimist Youth Sports Complex. But any park changes would require community engagement, including a public hearing, and the city is still trying to figure out how to pay for new pickleball courts. In Caldwell, public documents should be easier for citizens to access online. The city announced new software which will convert existing public documents from PDF to HTML. That's the standard language of internet web pages. The change will make documents easier to read, search, translate, and use on mobile devices. The change applies to public files like meeting agendas and minutes, budget documents, ordinances, and other files. Documents will also be able to be translated into 250 different languages. The new software is called Doc Access. It also meets ADA requirements. In just a moment, why the city of Lewiston is getting nearly $2 million from the State Department of Environmental Quality. First, let's take you through some sports notes. Tonight is the first night of the NFL draft. Boise State has had at least one player drafted in 18 of the last 20 years. An offensive lineman, Cage Casey, is predicted to be selected this year, but likely not until Saturday's later rounds. Former Boise State quarterback Talon Green, who transferred and finished his collegiate career at Arkansas, is among the top 10 quarterbacks projected to be taken in the draft. University of Oregon's Kenyon Sadiq is one of the top 2 tight ends available this year. Sadiq was raised in McCammon in East Idaho. He came out of Skyline High School in Idaho Falls in 2022 as the top football recruit in the state. He's likely to come off the board in the first round today. He'll be the 6th Idaho player taken in the NFL draft in the last decade. Boise State women's tennis is the defending champs and number 2 seed this year at the Mountain West Conference Championship Tournament in Las Vegas. The Broncos' first match is this morning against 7th seed Nevada. The Broncos beat the Wolfpack in the regular season 4-0. Today's match begins at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. The men are the number 3 seed in the conference tennis championships. They beat New Mexico yesterday 4-0 and advanced to the quarterfinal round to face number 2 seed San Diego State this afternoon. The Idaho Steelheads Kelly Cup playoff run begins tonight on the road at Allen. The team will host a watch party for games 1 and 2 at the Sports Zone at ICCU Arena starting at 5:30. Idaho does not have home ice advantage in this best-of-7 series. Games 3 and 4 are scheduled for Sunday at 4 p.m. and Monday at 7 in Boise. Game 5, if necessary, would be Tuesday at 7, also in Boise. Finally, this morning, the city of Lewiston is getting $1.8 million from the State Department of Environmental Quality to build a carbon dioxide system at the water treatment plant and decommission one of the city's wells. DEQ in a news release says the projects are meant to address some specific PFAS and emerging contaminants known as forever chemicals. The money is distributed from DEQ's revolving loan fund, but it is funded specifically for emerging contaminants by the federal bipartisan infrastructure law, and the money is not expected to be paid back and will not accrue interest. PFAS, meanwhile, are popping up in water systems across the United States. The nonprofit Environmental Working Group says many systems in Mountain West states exceed health advisory levels. Jenny Kinsey has more.
The forever chemicals were found in dozens of public and private water sources. Urban runoff and military bases have helped to drive a surge in contamination in recent years in water sources in Colorado, Arizona, Idaho, Montana, and parts of Nevada and Wyoming. And in New Mexico, at least 15 water systems, including areas in and around Albuquerque, showed elevated levels. James Kenney, Secretary of the New Mexico Environment Department, says that since 2018, the federal government has been the biggest PFAS polluter.
They are the ones that have released more PFAS in this state than the chemical companies through consumer products.
Other hotspots, according to the working group, include areas near Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs and points along the Colorado River Upper Basin. I'm Jenny Kinsey in Albuquerque for the Mountain West News Bureau.
A 2021 through 2024 sampling of 12% of public water systems in Idaho found PFAS was detectable at generally lower levels than common in other western states. There are some exceptions in the Treasure Valley near the Mountain Home Air Force Base. And that's your Connector for Thursday, April 23rd. A programming note and a bit of congratulations to our colleagues at Idaho Matters. Today, the program is celebrating 8 years on the air, the weekday public affairs show that has hosted thousands of guests and brought wide-ranging conversations to listeners on air and on the Idaho Matters podcast. Congrats on 8 years. The show is produced by Samantha Wright with assistant producer Hannah Gardowski and, of course, hosted by Gemma Gaudette. You can hear it at noon weekdays on Boise State Public Radio News. We'll be back with you with another episode of The Connector tomorrow morning. I'm Troy Oppie. Thanks for listening. Make it a great day.
You know, every day on Up First, NPR's Golden Globe-nominated morning news podcast, we bring you 3 essential stories. At the heart of each story are questions. What really happened? What really mattered? What happens next? At NPR, we stand for your right to be curious and to follow the facts. Follow Up First wherever you get your podcasts and start your day knowing what matters and why.